When a yearbook designer is selecting fonts, I think they kind of really need to look at a font 3 different ways. Look at the personality, look at the readability of it, and look at the durability of the font. Because you want to make sure your font's setting a tone for your book. It's setting the personality. Is it going to be fun and bubbly, or is it going to be very vintage, authentic feeling, or is it going to be very modern? So you do want to make sure your font shows its personality, and it's really going to set the tone for your book. The readability, that's exactly what the point of your yearbook is. You want people to view it, to read it, to look at it, to enjoy it, and you've got to make it easy to read, and you've got to make it functional. And then the durability of it. We make yearbooks to last lifetimes, and so the font needs to have a function, and the font needs to be able to function for that audience for the long term. I think we get overwhelmed when we see that nice little font chart, that we just see all the pretty fonts and we want to use them all. We see the fun and the personality that they can add to our book. But just because they're there doesn't mean we need to choose them all. I teach my students to choose 2 fonts mainly. To one, look for a font family. Look for a font that has a typeface that has several fonts to it that they can really play with and use in their captions, their body copy, their headlines, and any other kind of functions that they need to have in the book. Also a decorative font. This is going to be more of our character of our book. It's going to set the tone, it's going to show the personality, and we're going to use that character font, that decorative font. We definitely set the tone of our book with the font. We use our typography to really show the personality of our book. With our 2013 yearbook, when the students really started brainstorming and talking about the theme concept, they were coming up with words like personal, authentic, vintage, very earthy. And the first place we looked for was in typography. We weren't even thinking of cool tools or graphics or colors. We were looking at the type that would really express that personality. I know with body copy, the rule everybody refers to is that you use a serif font for body copy. It's designed to be easy to read, it does have durability, it does have readability, it creates that impression of a line so your reader has something to follow. But if you start looking at more and more magazines and more designs, they're taking their cues from websites, and websites are using more sans serif fonts. So I think the old way of thinking where it has to be a serif font is kind of going away, but you still need to use your fonts wisely. You need to try, if you find a font family you like, type it up into a large paragraph. Print it at 100%, put it on the wall, look at it for several days. Don't just make a split-second decision that this is the font we're going with. Really test it and see if it works. And you'll find that maybe that size 8 font really needs to be a size 10-point font, or different ways to play with it, maybe increase the leading, anything you can do to make that body copy both durable and readable, but also still stick with what you're going for in your book. I think yearbook staffers need, just like they become designers and photographers and wordsmiths and reporters, they really need to learn to craft fonts, learn to craft words together into designs, into graphics, into entry points into a page. And they need to learn terminology, they need to learn techniques, they need to learn all that goes into typography. They can't just say, ooh, this is a pretty font, let me use it. They really need to understand how that font is put together so they can practice things like weaving it together or creating some contrast with it, with a bold font typeface with a very narrow typeface or an italics. So I think there's a lot of things they can do with contrast, with color, with spacing to really set that font apart and make it something special.